Hey guys, Marsingin here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and boy, has it been interesting on the old social media today. So, the details for the Tree of Might Part 2 LR Goku were released on Twitter earlier today, and as expected, which happens almost all the time a new unit gets announced on Twitter, the community immediately explodes and starts calling the unit the worst thing they've ever seen, Raditz 2.0, etc, etc. And yeah, I talked about in my video where I read out his kit, the translations from Goresh, that I thought he seemed like he was pretty good on paper, at least in terms of the numbers that he could be hitting. And yeah, funnily enough, when I posted the tweet to my video, I posted it with the title of like, oh, you know, it's like, yeah, I know it's another base Goku, because I know a lot of people are not happy about that. But it's like, yeah, it's another base Goku, but he seems pretty good, question mark. And the number of people that replied to that tweet, like, just going off, memeing, like, oh, how can you say he looks good? Like, I don't know. People are not happy about this Goku. So, I made this tweet a little bit later in the morning. I've waited a good few hours to get some replies, before I, don't have any time left to record for today. But yeah, this Goku definitely deserves a community response video. People are going off about this unit. So I asked people to let me know what they think, what they dislike, anything they do like about him, because you guys know me, I always try and look for at least a little bit of positivity, right? So even when people love to go on Twitter and in the comments of videos and just rant about how, like, units are terrible. So I thought I would at least try and encourage people to at least maybe try and come up with something that they did like about the unit. We'll see how successful that was, if at all. And then give reasons, because this is the thing I said here. I better see everyone who posted meme responses to my first tweet actually pulling up with arguments, because this is one of the things that irritates me. And those of you who follow me on Twitter, you'll have seen me say this before. Like, when it comes to things that I really enjoy or that I'm like passionate about or whatever, and like obviously playing Dokkan is one of them, that's why I make content about it. Like, I love having discussions with other people, whether they agree with me or disagree with me. Like, I could talk about Dokkan like all the time. And one of the things that really annoys me is, like, when I give my opinions on units or teams or whatever, like, I try and put a lot of thought into those opinions. And so then when people come in and respond, and they're just like, they just respond with a meme, or they just put like, nah, or something. It's like, bruh, it's like, at least give me a reason why you think that, like, my opinion is wrong or whatever. Like, I find it so irritating. And then those people often, when you ask them to explain why they think that, they don't say anything, because unfortunately that's just always a way with social media, right? People love to be negative, and then they don't really like to be positive too much. And I try and be a force for that in the community as much as possible, right? I've said this same phrase many times before, but I always try and have like a glass half full approach to these kind of things, right? So, like I say, I don't think Goku is anything too special. He looks okay. To be clear, from the calcs that I've seen, once you get his finishing blow, he's doing like 20 million attack stats. After supering, he has 1 million defense, as long as he's linked up with a unit that has All in the Family. Because obviously that is a strong defensive link. And that's without support. And then because he's on teams like Movie Heroes, Pure Saiyans, Goku Family, all that kind of stuff, he has a ton of really good support unit options that you can run around him. So he's definitely going to put out some good numbers. But I think most people just don't like the fact that he doesn't really have any tech. Like, he doesn't have built-in additionals or crits, he doesn't have guard or dodge or anything like that. So anyway, we'll jump in and see what people think. This might be a bit of a longer video, but I'll try and get as many of the comments in here as I can. So starting off with our boy Mario, shout out to him. He's the guy that does a lot of my channel art, so we appreciate you. Happy we got a super int movie hero. There's actually not that many of them, is there? I'm mad it's yet another Goku. Why couldn't he be Kaioken Goku? Yeah, this is the problem. Like, if units with the same name could link, then it wouldn't really matter if it was yet another base Goku. But because they don't, then obviously it is kind of annoying. And obviously most people's main argument is the fact that the AGL LR base Goku and the Tech 23rd World Tournament base Goku, like, they just seem to have much more value on the teams that they're on than this guy, where, like, the only place you're going to really run him over them is Movie Heroes, because they're not on it, and that's it, essentially, right? So, I don't want to hate, so I'll just smile. I mean, yeah, this is what I said, right? Like, people can be negative. If you hate Goku, if you think he sucks, then that's fine, but, like, tell me why he sucks, right? Rather than just reply to, like, a tweet saying he sucks. Like, I want to know why people think that. And, you know, I'm not saying that that is going to happen, but in the past, Dokkan has buffed units based on community feedback. But you have to imagine that, like, for them to truly take in community feedback, they have to know what it is you think about something. So if you just say this unit sucks, that doesn't give them any indication, like, what you don't like about it, right? So I always prefer, like, people can be as negative as they want about units and about teams, even stuff that I like. Like, people can rag on heroes all day long as they give reasons why they don't like the team, right? I just think it's so much better when you can actually back up why you don't like something, right? But again, a lot of people just like to be super negative. He's the best gold coin LR base Goku. True. I mean, he is. He's good for World Tournament, maybe. That's about the only pro. I feel like this is a little bit too harsh, because one of the things that I think people missed, and I did make a separate tweet about this, is I saw a lot of people reacting to his kit by saying that he's only designed for fighting multiple units, and that's it. But, like, I feel like if you think that, you just didn't read his kit correctly, right? Because he gets 100% attack and defense when facing one enemy, and then if you're facing multiple enemies, he's obviously not going to get that. He then gets 30% attack and defense per enemy past the second enemy. So that means if you're fighting 3, he gets 30%. If you're fighting 4, he gets 40%. If you're fighting 5, he gets 90%. So that means even with 5 enemies, he's getting 90% attack and defense. That means he's getting more stats when you're fighting 1 enemy than he is when you're fighting 5. I think people just see the fact that he has like an AoE super and then part of his kit mentions multiple enemies, and people just immediately switch off and think that like that's all that he's supposed to be used for, right? When actually, unless you're fighting 6 or more enemies, his highest numbers are going to be when there's only 1 enemy, which is what most of the difficult events are, right? The one exception is going to be the Gamma 1 and 2 red zone. He will suck in that stage because the last phase is 2 enemies, which means he's not getting any extra attack and defense, which is pretty bad. So shout out to our boy Kev. Shout out to Dokkan for giving us some easy skips for save for Tanabata. Yeah, some people always will mention this as a positive when a unhyped release comes out. Crazy, this new Goku has a better link set than Kai Goku. Because yeah, doesn't the Kai Goku doesn't have prepared for battle, which this Goku does, which is pretty good. Unless you're LR Piccolo or LR Bulma, not every unit is going to be designed for every event. I mean, this is true. Like, I've seen a lot of people say that this Goku sucks because he will be bad against Sin Shenron. And it's like I posted the surprise Pikachu face meme to Minato, because it's like, oh, really? The int unit that needs to super to get their defense isn't good against the hardest physical boss in the game that does AoEs that hit you before you super attack? Wow, what an absolute shocker. Yep, you Alan mid. I mean, I am the biggest advocate for toning down the Ultimate Gohan discourse, so I probably shouldn't make a joke here. But I know for a fact that Alan did this on purpose to wind me up, because I said, like, give me some actual reasons why you don't like him. So he obviously didn't do that on purpose. Vector, LR in Goku, Cornflakes. I'm assuming this means just because he's bland, right? Because Cornflakes are, I don't know, no offense to any Cornflakes fans out there, but are incredibly boring. So yeah, I'm assuming that's what he means by that. Shout out to Thad. His name being Goku forced him to compete with 2 other Gokus, which are top 10 contenders. Like, even if this Goku wasn't top 10, he at least could have been close to the other 2. Yeah, true. He's int, which is a terrible typing to be right now, considering the boss events we have. Yeah, goes back to, like, the Sin thing. And the thing is as well, if you only have him at 55%, that means he gets free level 5 dodge. And even though he's going to be able to do big attack stats, that means unless you're using skill orbs or you get dupes, he's not going to be able to crit or additional, which is unfortunate. The thing is, again, with him being called Goku, like, it just closes him out of some of these other teams where you would want to run these other 2 Gokus. And I mentioned it in the earlier video where I talked about his kit. The other 2 Gokus are slot 1 units. So even if you run this guy on the team as well, you can't put them next to each other because they won't link, which means that this new Goku is just going to end up being like a 3rd slot floating unit on that team, which, I mean, he could still maybe do okay in that position. Like, he's still going to be able to do big damage potentially. But, like, why would you run 3rd slot floater on some of those teams that isn't providing support, right? You don't need to bring another unit that just does damage as a floater. So, very limited potentially. He's serviceable, that's it. His links are not great, his damage is whatever, his tanking is okay. Doesn't have any gimmicks to make him shine outside of AoE for SBR. He's not losing the fight because of him type of bad, but I wouldn't push him past being a 6 out of 10. I mean, this seems like a pretty reasonable response, because again, I should be clear, like, I don't think this Goku is great or anything. I just, like, when I see people immediately saying that, like, oh, he's terrible, he's awful, like, you know, again, Raditz 2.0, I feel like that's being a little bit too harsh, right? So I feel like this is a pretty fair criticism. His links are okay. Although, actually, I think if I remember this one specifically, he forgot that he had prepared for battle. Yeah, I did see that. Of course I did. I liked it. All right, well, there you go. So, so shout out to Sora. I think that's a pretty fair, like, evaluation, right? Very middling unit, just base Goku when we already have him covered. All stats, but with short and incomplete feeling passive. AoE unit, I tend to notice that the devs highly value this mechanic. Need to see him in-game, but I'm not impressed on paper. Now, again, I always say we need to see the units in-game, right? Because as I already said, from the calcs, unsupported, he's going to be doing some good numbers. But, like, people are going to start seeing videos come out where, you know, he's getting an additional super and he's getting, like, double crits and, you know, he's doing ridiculous amounts of damage. And then people are going to change their opinion a little bit, right? Now, his defense is obviously not the best. And this is the thing, right? He doesn't have an incomplete feeling passive. I believe that that's kind of what I was saying earlier, right? Where he doesn't have any sort of guard or dodge or crit or anything like that. He's just all raw numbers, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, see, this guy says the same thing, right? He does nothing special. His damage and defense is okay at best. I don't know about that necessarily. But the only utility I see of him is in World Tournament and easier Red Zone stages. I mean, again, like, units that can get up to 1,000,000 defense after they super, like, he'll be tanking normal attacks for double digits. And then, depending on what support you have on the rotation, he's not going to, like, instantly die to, like, a super from, say, like, Broly. He's still going to take damage, right? But he's not going to take, like, 900k, right? So, I mean, we'll see. Boo Duo minus the stacking, quad supering, and standby. Is he that bad? Because, I mean, Boo Duo minus the stacking, quad supering, and standby would be pretty shocking. Is he that bad? I don't know. Another Goku makes you want to take a break from the game because clearly the devs are taking a break too. Game feels super stale, repetitive, and dry. I've played every day for 7 years, yeah. I know a lot of people are feeling that. Like, this time of year is always really dry, but I will say that. And again, in the same breath, say that even I don't think that's a good excuse. Like, the game just shouldn't have a period where, oh, it's always dry at that time of the year. It's like, well, why? Just make it not like that, right? But here's what it is. He shares his name with 2 top 10 units on almost all of his teams. His damage is mediocre. His tanking is mediocre. I don't think his damage is mediocre, but again, we'll see. He has no utility, which is true. He's going to have problems reaching 21 key without LR Bulma. I mean, I don't know about that. So he gets 5 key from his passive and he has prepared for battle, so that's 17 key. 7 key, which means on a team where you have a proper leader skill, like a double 3 key leader skill, you're going to be starting at, what, 13 key. So then, yeah, I guess that means he needs to get 8 key in order to get 21. But if you're using floating units that provide support or are orb changing or whatever, then it's not necessarily going to be that difficult. And then obviously when you do get the finishing blow, he's then getting another 5 key. So after that, like, you're going to be hitting the 21 key, like, all the time, right? So I guess it depends. He has no slot 1, all in the family partners, so his already iffy defense will take a hit. Now, this is actually a very valid point, because all the calcs that I've seen are with him with all in the family, but all in the family, like, the unit that he's going to be run with is ideally going to want to be in slot 1, because he's not a slot 1 unit. So he needs to have a really good slot 1 all in the family partner, or you have it so that all of your slot 3 floating units have all in the family. Otherwise he's not getting that link. So that is a good point. Straight up, I will gladly take any LR with Kaioken. I don't mind another Goku personally. I think he'll look pretty great based on what I see on paper at least. We needed more AoE superclass units, so I'm happy with him. Great animations and OST. I definitely agree with the last part. I think the animations and OST are super good. It's nice to see someone with a more positive outlook. I don't know if I would necessarily, I don't know if I'd necessarily go as far as saying he'll look pretty great. I think he'll look pretty good. I don't know if he's going to look pretty great, but again, we need to see him on paper, in-game, as opposed to just on paper. There's nothing to hate per se. He's going to be fine, and he's going to do a ton of damage. It's just the feeling of following up Bulma, and yeah, true, and coming right before the Tanabata LR. It's a tough spot to be in. Yeah, because remember, Bulma, she did release as the Part 2 LR of Golden Week, which is a much more hype celebration. But when all is said and done in, like, 6 months' time, both of those units are just yellow coin LRs that are in the general pool for LRs. And Bulma is, like, just so clear of this Goku that it's absolutely crazy, right? And then, yeah, the Tanabata stuff is coming up on JP, so I feel like most people surely are going to be skipping this guy. It's interesting, though, how last year Golden Frieza was mostly defense. True, yeah. Golden Frieza is the LR that came out in this time slot last year, so... he's alright, the worst base Goku this year, and I mean, he is the third one, at least. I might say... Physical Go Piccolo is better. I would like to... Oh, yeah, these memes. Shout out to Vector. We've been having our back and forth today. He likes to push his agenda. I have never been a fan of Physical Goku and Piccolo. I do not think that they are better than this Goku. But, again, we need to see what they're doing in-game before we can start doing some direct comparisons. But it's another Goku. I don't know why pretty much every playing decision this year is a complete mess. A lot easier that don't fit the theme. Mid-Dokkan Fest, no content. Yeah, people are getting pretty mad at the game. Now, the one thing I did say earlier as well in a separate tweet is that the thing you have to think about with these Goku units is that I feel like, personally, all of the movies should get a decent amount of representation, right? They're a pretty big part of the Dragon Ball, like, library. So I feel like every movie should have, like, a Dokkan Fest and an LR or something like that, right? And the problem is, in all of the, like, earlier movies, the super type unit is just going to be a Goku. And if it's before the Cooler movie, like, Goku doesn't have Super Saiyan at that point. So they're all going to be either base or Kaioken Goku. And it's just one of those things. I 100% agree that people get burnt out with getting too many Gokus. But he's the main character of the series. And if we're getting stuff based on the movies, he's the main character in most of the movies. And, like, the finisher of most of the movies. So unfortunately it's just kind of one of those things that's always going to happen, right? So Kim says like, good stats, good animations, solo fight unit who can help against multiple enemies. Yeah, exactly. This is what I was saying about this point earlier, right? He's good in solo fights, and then he has some extra tech. Well, I say tech, extra stats against multiple enemies. Dislikes, no defensive utility, no crits or additionals. His buff per enemy shouldn't be from the second enemy. Buff per KO is too RNG based overall. Good, I'd only use him with type advantage. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's one of these things, right? Like, if we get a new set of red zone stages in the next big celebration, like, say, worldwide, for example, gives us, like, 2 new red zones. I know we only got 1 last year with the Wicked Bloodline one, but if we get some new red zone stages and one of them has, like, a big tech final boss, then I'm sure this Goku is going to be good in that event. I mean, I guess it depends whether the boss does AoEs, because this Goku does get most of his defense on Super, but yeah. Active skill, too dull. No stun, super effective. Yeah, see, attack active skills always feel a little bit disappointing when they don't have, like, guaranteed crit or effective against all types or something. Especially because he doesn't stack attack. So you're definitely going to get turns where, like, type neutral, let alone type disadvantage, where you use the active skill, don't get a crit, and then it doesn't do that much damage. It seems like they wanted to make this unit... it seems they even wanted to make the unit anyway. Huh? Obviously, it will be fine when facing several enemies, but he can be slain in some... I mean, again, this is like... I don't know if this goes back to what I was saying before, where he is better against one enemy than against multiple enemies. Whereas the additional super and passive damage reduction or guard or... Yeah, exactly. Units, like... I feel like we've gotten to the point now... I used to joke about it, where, like, when people would make custom EZAs or custom concepts for cards, they would give every single card, like, guard, dodge, built-in additional and stuff like that. But we're getting to the point now where most of the top-tier units in the game do have one or more of these abilities built in. So when a unit comes out and they don't have any of them built in, it's quite a stark, like, contrast. So that is a good point. He's a unit that exists in the Dokkan Battle video game. True. Not interested in another base Goku. Much rather have had another villain like Slug. Yeah, I think they should have just kept it movie related and had part 2 be Slug. Or even like a Broly. Just anything, right? Like something movie related, since the main part 1 was Turles. But easy skip for me. I think a lot of people will think that. Baffling release. He shares his name with 2 top 10 units. Yep. Doesn't really do anything that would justify running him over the other 2. Nice animations, but that's about where it ends. Yeah, fair. More than LR Goku disguises. No, again, he is not physical Raditz as an LR. Come on. What I think about him is all he brings to the team is damage. At the same time, he loses damage and has key issues without the proper partner. But his good partners can't hold slot 1 efficiently, and he can even have problems defensively in slot 2. All while he's being named Goku. Yeah, I think he's one of those units that... Now, again, I'm not saying... I would never say this makes a unit good. But I feel like he's one of those units that if you do build the team around him, like you give him a good slot 1 partner and you bring like floating support units, and you know, you have Bulma on the other rotation who's giving off rotation support. I feel like there's gonna be turns where this guy is gonna look pretty good. But obviously a lot of people don't like that because we have units in the game where you don't have to build the team around them and they still look really good. So, Movie Hero's got a new int unit, so that's cool. Yeah, somebody else bringing that up. We need a break from base Gokus, yeah, especially this year. Chad is his brother. No. He shares the same name with 2 top 10 units. His tanking is okay. He has 0 utility. He has key issues without Bulma. People keep bringing up, like, only Bulma is, like, the only good support unit for him. But, like, he's a Goku that has prepared for battle. So, you're going to be running, like, other Saiyan support units with him on some of these teams, surely. He can be usable, but as his kit is very, very basic and it's just raw stats, he will age as soon as there's another hard event. I mean, this is potentially true. He can't tank Sin, so he's just going to quickly turn into an absolute trash can. I mean, post super attack, I mean, I don't know what the AoEs will do, but post super attack, he will be able to tank against Sin. Not like insanely well, of course. Like, he's not going to be taking double-digit damage. But the biggest problem, of course, with Sin is the AoEs. And he's not a slot 1 unit, right? So if he's doing all his AoEs in slot 1, you're in trouble. If you get some of those runs like we've seen before on like some of Truth's lucky runs where he's not AoEing until slot 2, then maybe it'll be a little bit better for Goku. Well, I mean, it definitely will be better for Goku, but we'll see how that pans out once the videos start coming out. So, card is definitely lacking in some areas. While he can get to incredible levels of attack and defense, he doesn't have anything to help those numbers age well past their initial value. Having no real utility means there's nothing particularly interesting about him. Yeah, that is fair. I don't see much use for him outside of World Tournament or SBR. I mean, again, he's actually better against one enemy. I think people are seeing those restrictions in his passive and just kind of assuming that he's supposed to be for multiple enemies, which I don't think is the case, right? Now it's easier to save stones. Yeah, people have said that. He's okay, he's not bad, but why would you run him? Both Tech Goku and Carnival Goku are better. Movie Heroes has better options. Again, he's not bad, but usually we compare new units to the recent units, and compared to them, he sucks. He doesn't actually suck, but comparatively, he does. Yeah, see, this is an interesting point, right? Like, this is the kind of thing, this is why I like to ask people to give reasons, because if you just say he sucks, like, I don't agree with that. But if you say, compared to a lot of the newer units that have come out, he kind of sucks, then it's like, yeah, that is true, right? So that's why I think giving these reasons and stuff is important when discussing these units, right? I'm ambivalent about him. I don't care enough about the 3rd base form Goku being released this year to even look at his kit. I do know I'm not a fan of the direction things have been going since the management change last year. Yeah, people are really starting to get disenfranchised, I think, at the moment. He's just raw stats with an AoE, that's it. He feels like ROF Blues too. On top of that, there's no reason to run him when there are 2 other base Gokus who are leaps and bounds better. Yeah. I never predict how good a unit will be until I see them in action. I'm sure he'll be fine, but yeah, who knows? Exactly, right? Like, you know, it's all well and good to form an opinion when you just see the details, but like, some people will go hard arguing, like, you know, no, he's terrible, and when somebody else posts saying they think he's quite good, they'll like reply to them being like, what, are you stupid? He's terrible. But like, you know, form an opinion, but then let's see what he actually looks like in game before we start going too hard, right? He's okay. He's just hardly a useful unit. So I guess it means like he just barely is a useful unit, right? He's the worst Goku named unit to come out recently. I mean, true. He gets pounded by the hardest bosses. I mean, again, I'm not sure what damage he's going to take. It's not good for him that he's in, right? Because obviously Sin and then Metal Cooler Core are 2 of the hardest bosses with Broly, like they're like the big 3. and he has type disadvantage against 2 of them, so it's pretty unfortunate. Hello Golden Frieza, who dropped a year ago, clears him. I don't know if I would say clears him. He's definitely much better defensively, especially at the beginning. But, like, he obviously doesn't clear him, like, damage-wise. But, overall lame release that offers nothing unique compared to his counterparts. Also, from what I'm seeing, he needs to fulfill all conditions and be Rainbow to have some semblance of modern damage. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily how I would phrase it, right? Like, again, you have to... The condition is you get the final blow, and he does the 20 million attack. I think without the final blow, it's still, like, 16 million or something. So, I mean... I guess, yeah, because he has no built-in additionals and stuff, it's nothing too crazy. But it is funny to think, like, if you're someone like me who's been playing the game for years, did you ever imagine we would get to a point in the meta where a unit would be doing a 20 million attack stat and having a 1 million defense, and then people were saying that that unit is bad? Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, I know the meta obviously moves on, but it is just kind of funny to think when looking back at what older units used to do. So... I think he's kind of boring, he's not really doing anything special, and he's kind of just okay, which is fine. Also being third base Goku in a row is kind of ridiculous, yeah. Haven't read his kit yet, fair enough. He looks good, not worth chasing, definitely will be featured on a carnival banner, which I know are somehow rainbow. Yeah, that is true, right? Yellow coin banners shouldn't be summoned on by most people anyway. So at some point this guy will end up featured on a carnival banner. And then if you pull him with dupes and then start giving him like additionals and crits, you know, he could look pretty good. But I think they should stop making AoE units who are worse against multiple enemies, yeah. I'm pretty sure with 21 key no death blow against one enemy, his stat buff is 650, 400 for 2 enemies, add 60 for additional enemies. I'm not too sure. Calcs are definitely not my thing. Only reason he doesn't do anything special like guaranteed additional or guard or damage reduction. He's way too plain. Yeah, a lot of people have said that, right? Final of his kit, what I don't like is that he's another base Goku, yeah. They wasted an LR with this useless Goku and it could have been anything else. For example, a villain version of Bulma, yeah. But that's the thing you have to think about. Like, they obviously decided for whatever reason that they're doing a Tree of Might celebration. So Turles is the main unit. The Turles, well, I say that, but then they did the Go Bros EZA, right? So who knows? But in terms of the new units coming out, right? So they dropped Turles as the Dokkan Fest, and then the Spirit Bomb Goku is the Part 2, because they're who fought, right? Like, I can see the logic behind it, but it seems like they're continuing with the trend of giving each base Goku different roles and tools, just that this one has one role, and that's bad. No tools, no tech, no reason to run him in World Tournament because villain teams just work better for it, true. A lot of people will be like, big attack and defense numbers carry. I mean, big attack and defense numbers can be fun, but like, I don't think that necessarily makes those units bad. Like, a unit that can hit big attack and do, like, hit a big defense number, but it's only raw defense. That doesn't necessarily mean they're bad, it just means they're not, like, great tanks, which I've talked about in previous videos. Like, not every single unit in the game is supposed to tank everything, because then the game's too easy, right? Good unit, Cell Max killer. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess if you still haven't done Cell Max, that could be quite interesting. Fantastic animations, yeah. Subpar offensively when he has no crits or additionals to back up his one big number attack stat. I mean, that is true, right? If he's dropping a 20 million attack stat, but that's all he's doing, like, then that's going to feel disappointing. Because even units like to bring up Ultimate Gohan again, people love to slander him, but like on the turns where you are getting his additionals, he's dropping like a 16 million and then 2 like, you know, 13 or 14 million attack stat additionals. Whereas this Goku is potentially going to do that 20 million attack stat super, and then that's it, right? Subpar defensively when he has no defensive tech like guard, dodge, or damage reduction. I mean, again, right, it's kind of a shame that we're in a meta where a million defense is subpar, but it is what it is. Active skill that hits hard in theory, but without crits it won't be doing much. Yeah, again, like a type neutral or, you know, even worse, type disadvantage, you use his active skill and don't crit, it's not going to do crazy damage. The people who complained about base form Goku doesn't have good representation. Did people complain about that? Maybe before Golden Week, I don't know, but... as usual, people are overreacting. To be honest, we needed a super class SBR killer and we got him. Did we though? Because like, what stages are you going to use them on that are not already super old? I don't know. Dokkan's given us enough units for the higher level difficulty. Nice to see them show some love to Super Battle Road 2, and not everyone is going to have these Goku units. I mean, again, though, this is kind of working under the assumption that he's a Super Battle Road unit, which I don't think he is. Like, he's not going to be terrible in Super Battle Road, but think about the stages where there's only 2 enemies, so he's not getting any extra stat buff. Like, he's doing an AoE super, but he's not going to be, like, super, super impressive. So, his artwork is great. Best potential of him are against 1 enemy or 7 enemies, yeah. He's shortly like a summonable, kind of worse-ish Prime Battle Krillin. Interesting. He should have guard or damage reduction and built-in additionals or crits because he's in. Sadly, AoE units are treated badly. Yeah, it's very strange. Dislike 69th Goku this year. Bland, boring kit. Fulfilled almost 0 role most of his teams. Flat out worst summonable LR this year so far. Is he? I'd have to go back and look at all the other ones, but good OST, nice animation. Easier to save for big celebrations, I guess. Yeah, this is a thing that people bring up like a lot. And I think I did mention it earlier, right? That easy to save for later celebrations gets brought up as kind of like a meme response to feedback for some of these newer units. Yeah, Garesh's earlier tweet while he was doing his translations. Yeah. He's good but not needed. I mean, yeah, kind of. He's cookie cutter. He literally does nothing special. Many units literally can do what he does and better. Yep. Kind of gone over that already. He's all raw stats, and they made him only usable in red zone with the whole second part of his passive. Him coming out after Bulma just makes him look very boring as a unit. That is very true. So before we end off here, I didn't want the video to be super long, but I did make another tweet as well. Just a random question that I'll tack on to the response video, because I already saw a lot of people saying that their biggest issue with him was that he was a base Goku. So I just decided it'd be interesting to ask, if he was a differently named unit, but his kit was exactly the same, would people like him more? So shout out to D Simons. He's talking about how like they should rename some of these units, like the AGL Carnival Goku should be called Goku brackets Yamcha, Tien, and Krillin. So he still is a Goku unit with like Goku links and categories, but has a different name. I think that would be good. Yeah, this is where I started having this discussion like about how most of his power is from one enemy, not multiple enemies. I would like him more. I don't think it would change much about his strength. Unless being one of those characters. Yeah, I guess if he was like on a really random team that really needed help, maybe people would like him a bit more. I'd probably be more disappointed. Okay. They can fumble a base Goku or 2 since we have 2 other really good ones, but if you throw that kit onto another unit that could have been a helpful release for certain teams, then it's a problem for people that want buffs for those teams. That is a good point, actually. It's quite interesting. Yeah, would be worse because it means different link set and teams. Not necessarily less. I guess it depends who it was, right? Because, yeah, if they made it like the Z Fighters from that movie, then obviously they're going to be on, like, apart from, like, movie heroes, I guess, technically, they're going to be on, like, Earthlings, warriors raised on Earth. Yeah, and then maybe they'd give them something like All Out Struggle or whatever, I don't know. And then, yeah, their links are not going to be the best. So that is actually a very good point, right? Because it's a Goku, that's why he has, like, the links and the categories that he does. Yeah, see, it would suck if it was as a Z Fighters card, because we wouldn't have another Z Fighters card for a long time. Yeah, fair. It would help, but he's still pretty awful. Considering he doesn't have to compete with the Golden Week Goku and 8th Annie Part 2 Goku, he would be better, yeah, okay. I would like him more for sure. I still wouldn't like his kit, which is only big numbers. Not really. Just don't want another base Goku when we've had 2 already this year. So he's saying he still wouldn't like the unit, he just also doesn't like the fact that it's Goku. Would depend. If it was anything other than Kaioken, then he'd suck more because he'd be down links and categories. But at least with Kaioken, he could have linked with other recent Gokus. Yeah, him being a Kaioken Goku would have been pretty cool. Nah, I'm just comment to comment. Fair enough. It would help, but no, his kit has nothing but stats and is going to age horribly. Be a start, but his kit doesn't really impress me all that much. If they gave him something to stand out against other base Goku units, then I'd be more interested. As he is now, I'd say he's just kind of a meh unit. Again, bringing up Raditz, man. That's such a... I feel like that's such an over, like, reaction to say he's like Raditz. Probably would be, except this comes on a flip side, which is links would be wonky. Yeah, exactly. His kit probably would be more all over the place too. Just a weird release. Would have rather had Piccolo or Krillin. That kit's great for slot 2, but due to Sin just existing, how you could float him off against Cell Max, he gets locked and supered, which is a big problem without guard or damage reduction. This hasn't really got anything to do with whether he's a Goku or not, so... no, the unit is flawed with the lack of useful tools in important fights. If you changed Raditz's name to Final Form Frieza, he'd still be bad. That is true, because Raditz gets the benefit of being on some good teams, and he still sucks. So... no, it's just raw stats and low ones. I mean, I wouldn't say they were low. I don't know if anyone's seen this calcs. I mean, they're not, like, insanely high, but they're not low. Oddly, I do agree. This applies specifically to teams who, at the moment, will take any buffs they can get, like hybrids or villain teams. He isn't horrible as a unit. He just suffers the same fate as Turles, where he isn't what his teams needed. That is a good point, for sure. If his name was Kaioken Goku, he'd be decent on a turtle score and be able to activate All in the Family more. Yeah, because you could run him with the other LR Goku or the Tech one, which would be cool. It's a start, but it wouldn't save him much at all. I still like him regardless of his name. I'm here just to play Dokkan and have fun without complaining about what Dokkan does. Because, I mean, I don't know if necessarily I would say they know better all the time, but I feel like this is a good last comment to leave it on here, just because it's a little bit positive. I like this, like, hey, man. I could kind of say this to, like, all you guys out there, right? It's like, hey, man, I'm just here to play Dokkan and have fun, right? Like, it's funny to argue about these units, and obviously when they release a unit that is actually bad, like, having the community feedback can be good because they have made changes in the past. But, like I said, I do feel like people do overreact quite a lot when the stuff first comes out for a new unit. But you guys will have to let me know what you think down below in the comment section. What do you think of this Goku? Do you think he's good? Do you think he's bad? Do you think he'd be better if he was not just a Goku? And, you know, as we said, it's kind of the point of this whole video. Let me know the reasons why you think those things. And let me know down below in the comment section. So, I guess we'll have to see the showcases and see what he looks like. I am expecting him to look fairly impressive damage-wise, but... I mean, I can't say I disagree with a lot of these comments about him just being very plain and just not really having enough to make him very special, right? So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.